All right. Late video for week 7. We'll start with just a quick recap. Week 6. Hey, we got on the board. So I went 5 for 4 in week 6. So that was my first positive week for a while. Ended up kind of breaking even as far as the money goes. But that brings my overall record to 22-30, and we'll try to keep that momentum going. Just some quick thoughts about week 6. Pretty happy with my picks for Jets, Packers, Giants, Ravens. I think both teams managed to win outright. I picked them to cover decent spreads. I was happy with Seattle upsetting the Cardinals, and the Vikings got it done against the Dolphins. Uh, on the losses, the Colts and Jags hit the over. Both actually showed up. So that might have been a little recency bias, picking that under, but I don't hate myself for it. Steelers upset Tampa, so uh, you know don't feel too bad about picking against them. But that was interesting to see. The Panthers, Rams. The Panthers were in range all game to cover that 10-point spread, and then just at the last minute, uh, Rams scored. I mean, maybe it wasn't last minute, but in towards the end of the game, all game I was checking the score of that game and seeing that the Panthers were keeping it close. The Rams weren't really playing that well, and then right at the end, the final score ended up being like 24-10. But they were within shooting distance for a while there, so that was kind of disappointing. And the 49ers just totally failed against Atlanta, so they're difficult to trust, but I'm going to do something weird with them later. So we'll see how that goes. On to week 7. Falcons at Bengals. So right now the Bengals are minus 6.5-point favorites at home. The Bengals haven't really played that well. They're like a 3-3 team. 6.5 points is quite a bit. Falcons have covered. I think they've covered every single game this year. They're just a covering machine. Last week I picked against them, and kind of ignored that fact, and they ended up going and winning outright against the 49ers. So I think that's too many points to give the Bengals with the way they're playing. They struggled last week against the Saints. They don't have really any too many impressive victories on their schedule this year. I think that's maybe just a little name brand value with Joey Burrow and their wide receivers and how well they've done, how well they did last year. This year, not really that great. The Falcons are playing. Falcons are not a good team, but they're playing well enough. They're competing every week. Um, I don't see them getting blown out necessarily. So I'll take the Falcons plus 6.5 points. I feel okay about that. Lions at Dallas. This one might be a little more of a gamble. There's a lot of moving pieces with this one. So Detroit's coming off a bye. Amon-Ra St. Brown should be at full strength. In general, offense got their team should be a bit healthier. And DeAndre Swift, they're not commit. They haven't been committal with their language of whether he'll be back. I think that's some gamesmanship. I think DeAndre Swift's going to be back. I think they were targeting this for his return. That Detroit offense was struggling the last couple weeks, had a lot of injuries, but I think they're going to get back on track this week. Although Dallas does have a pretty solid defense, they were able to win quite a few games with Cooper Rush, on the back of that defense. But I think Detroit will be able to score points. And on the Cowboys side, I think their defense is played well, but they still have their cornerbacks. Still not crazy about Trayvon Diggs and all that. So I think Lions will be able to move the ball. On the Cowboys side, the Lions defense is terrible, and the Cowboys, we're seeing the return of Dak Prescott coming off that injury. Dalton Schultz is back. Gallup, Lamb, they should be pretty much at full strength on that offense. But the angle I'm playing is they're going to be a little rusty. Dak's first game back. I don't think he's going to go out and throw for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. So I think the ball will be moved. I think some points will be scored. I'm just going to take the Lions coming off the bye, getting healthy. I'm going to take them to cover that 6.5. Not going to pick them to win, but I think they might be able to keep it close against Dallas and Dak kind of coming off of an injury. Colts at Titans. Not much to say about these two teams. You can't trust either of them. Big division game. I don't know if that means you should pick. I feel like the Titans have kind of had the Colts number the last couple of years, but and they're the home team. I would probably take Colts in the points. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I'm not going to touch that game. Packers at Washington. Boy, was I torn with this one because the Packers have wins of 3 points, 2 points, and 17 points against the Bears. They have losses to the Jets and Giants. They're not world beaters. They're not beating anybody out. Right now, they're 4.5-point favorites on the road. But Washington's not very good at all, and now they have Taylor Heineke, which, even if you don't like Wentz, I think Heineke's a downgrade. I think he'll probably turn the ball over at least once. But 4.5 points, I don't know how I feel about that. So right now, I'm kind of leaning towards Packers money line. Yeah, well, I think the Packers are going to win this game. I'm going to take a money line. I'm not going to give the 4.5 points because I feel like I'll regret it. So we're going to go Packers money line as the pick there, and I haven't really looked at those odds, but we'll just eat it because I'm pretty confident the Packers will win at Washington, but I don't know if I'm going to mess around with 4.5 points. Tampa Bay at Panthers. So they let me down last week. They're still a bad team. But plus 13.5 or 13 points for the Panthers. That's a lot of points. They just traded away Christian McCaffrey. They probably will come out and be terrible. But Tampa Bay just lost to the Steelers. They were favored by 8. They haven't been beating anyone particularly well. They're not really good at covering. It's a division game with a home underdog. I know the Panthers are out of it this season, but I don't know if they're going to completely roll over here or, there's still there's 10 games left in the season. I mean, the Panthers are going to have to play some football. And these guys, they want to put some decent film up, for whether we're going to try to stay with the Panthers or move on elsewhere for their NFL career. So I think there's enough people with reasons to play. As bad as they are, I'm going to go back to the well. I think Tampa Bay has really not been that great. I'm going to go back to the well. I'm going to take Panthers plus those 13 points. I'm not going to put a big bet on it, but I'm not going to trust Tampa Bay with 13 points. So we'll take the underdogs here. Division game, home underdog. They tend to pay for you. So we're going to roll with it. Giants at Jags. This game, I think I view them as pretty similar teams as far as quality, but I think the Giants are more consistent. They're especially on defense. They've been competing and showing up in games. They're 5-1. There's a reason they're 5-1. I think the Jags 2-4. So I'm gonna take, and right now it's at Jacksonville, which I don't think is a huge home field advantage, and the Giants are +3. So I'm going to take the Giants to maintain the momentum in the +3, and we'll see what happens there. Next game, Browns at Ravens. Here we got a division game. Ravens are currently favored -6.5. My initial thought was to avoid this game. Division game, don't really know what's going to happen. The Browns have not been very good. The Ravens have struggled lately, but I'm going to take the Browns +6.5. I'm taking a lot of the points this week. For better or for worse, we'll see. But the Ravens are really banged up right now. Lamar Jackson's been on the injury report with a hip. Not sure how that's going to affect him. J.K. Dobbins just went out. He's going to need knee surgery. Mark Andrews was limited, or I think he missed practice all week and then had a limited practice on Friday with a knee. So he'll probably play, but he's banged up. He's not playing at full strength. Rashad Bateman is questionable to play. With a foot. He missed last week. So they were already struggling. They blew that game to Buffalo. They blew that other game to, God, now I can't remember the other one. Anyway, they were struggling already. They're 3-3. They have lots of kind of nagging injuries on the offense that might crop up here. They have lots of defensive players that were resting. I don't know if they do that every week, but if you look at the Ravens injury report, it's that long. They got all these guys kind of resting and with nagging injuries. So they're really banged up. The Browns, they're coming off 2 straight losses, but 2 of them were close games to the Falcons and Chargers. 3 straight losses. 2 were close, then the Patriots, I think, kicked the crap out of them. But, I don't know, division game, 6.5 points is quite a bit. The Ravens haven't been playing that well. They're banged up. I like the Browns to keep it close. I think this will kind of be low scoring. Both teams like to run the ball. So 6.5 points becomes even bigger when you're talking about kind of a low scoring game. I'll have to check the over under on that one. Maybe I'll tweet that one out and add that to my picks. But I'm going to take the Browns plus 6.5. All right, moving on. Those were the noon games. Moving on to the afternoon games. First one I got is Jets at Broncos. And if it seems like the public or the books have kind of caught up and they're not giving, right now the Broncos are favored at home -1. I would have liked to, if that was like -3 or, and I could get the Jets with more points, I'd be really more interested in doing it. I've been waffling on this one for a while. So the Broncos D is good. They're holding everyone under 20. The Jets offense is nothing special. There was some drama this week with Elijah Moore, but he hasn't really been a part of things anyway. So you got Corey Davis, you got Garrett Wilson, who's hopefully healthy now. You got Breece Hall, questionable O-line. Zach Wilson really hasn't shown a lot. I think this is a big game. I think this game might kind of ride on his back. If he can make some plays, they win. If he turns the ball over and makes some negative plays, then I think they lose. So I think there's a big statement game, I guess, for Zach Wilson. Jets defense is decent, but I think both defenses are decent. I think the Broncos have a better defense. Both offenses are question marks. I think the Broncos offense has struggled more. So this is tough with a 1-point spread. It's at Mile High, so picking the Jets going into Mile High is really tough. I think this is going to come down to kicking and special teams, and I don't know. I looked at their kickers. So the Jets have Greg Zuellerin, who's struggled in recent years, but this year he's been reasonably solid. And McManus, like, their field goal statistics on the season are pretty close. They both missed an extra point. Both similar hit rate on field goals. Both have hit deep field goals. So fairly even at the kicking battle. Punting, I don't know enough about their punters to really say either way. I did see that the Jets punter went to A&M. So that makes me lean that way. I'm gonna place like a $1 bet. I'm gonna place a really small bet on, Jets have won 3 straight. Broncos have lost 3 straight. I almost think that's gonna reverse, but with everything spiraling in Denver, I'm just gonna avoid it. I can't do it. Sorry, guys. I can't do it. I was really tempted to take Jets money line or Jets +1, but I'm just not confident enough. Moving on to another game I'm not confident enough about. Houston at Raiders. Right now the Raiders are -7. I keep wanting to add the half. Raiders are -7. Probably a fair spread if you were talking to me before the season. The Raiders have not played very well. Their offense played a little bit better lately, but they just get in their own way a lot. I don't really trust them. Josh Jacobs has been looking pretty good though. And then the Texans are not great. I think they're maybe better than people think. Early in the season, they were covering a lot of games, so I kind of wanted to play that angle and take them plus the 7 points. I've been doing that a lot this week, and they're coming off a bye. They got that Dameon Pierce running back. I think both teams are coming off a bye. So ultimately, didn't really feel strongly one way or the other. This is a game I'm really not that interested in. Both these teams are playing pretty poorly, so I'm just not going to touch it. But I was tempted to take the Houston +7. Another game, Seattle at Chargers. So right now the Chargers are -5 favored, and you probably know how I feel about the Chargers. They can't cover anything, I don't trust. I think this is a perfect spot for them where they should go out and beat up on Seattle. They just really haven't played that well. Their defense has not played up to par with what the expectations were. They seem to get in their own way a lot. Chargers are going to Charger. So I think this is a perfect spot for them to go in and probably win, but just scrape by when they should have won handily. So I'm going to take Seattle plus the 5. Seattle's been a scrappy team this year. Geno Smith's been playing well. Kendall Walker has seemed to show up a little bit lately, although Eckler started to show up for the Chargers. But I'm just going to trust the Chargers to get in their own way enough and not play up to their full potential. It's kind of a trait of theirs. So I'm going to take them to win but not cover. I'm going to take Seattle +5 and have them compete another week. Kansas City at 49ers. Okay, so this one is a little off the wall, and I might regret it, but we'll see. I mean, if you look at the 49ers, they have a bad loss, like week 1 against the Bears. Then they bring it back and they win. They win big, by like double digits. Then they have a bad loss again against. Let's see if I don't think I have it up. I'm not going to take the time to pull it up. They have another bad loss. Was it against? I can't remember. Then they followed that up with 2 big wins. Now last week they had a bad loss against the Falcons. So I'm expecting them to follow that bad loss up with a big win. They know who they're playing. They know they're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. They're playing them at home. Right now they're +1 point underdogs. Kansas City's definitely played more consistently, but I think historically the 49ers have been a bad matchup for Kansas City. They just added Christian McCaffrey. I'm not how much will he play? Who knows? But I think they're going to show up ready to play. I think their defense is healthy, and they're going to give Patrick Mahomes problems, just like Buffalo did, just like the Colts did in Week 3 when the Chiefs got upset by them. I just think the 49ers are just a bad matchup, and I think you look at that history. You look at, the 49ers have been consistent, but when they show up to play, they're pretty good. So I think they're gonna show up to play this week. They're undefeated at home. They've only had 2 home games, but they're undefeated at home this year. All 3 of their losses have been away. So I like the 49ers money line over the Chiefs, and I'm actually playing around with taking a 49ers alternate spread bet at like -4.5, -5. Get that at +200, and that can make up. I'm chasing a little bit because I've been losing through the first 6 weeks of the season, but I might place like a reasonably decent bet on 49ers alternate spread -4.5, -5, and then just trust that 49ers defense to give the Chiefs problems and keep them off their backs a little bit. So we'll see what happens there. That could blow up my face spectacularly, but I'm going to do it. 49ers at Miami. Miami is -7.5 point favorites. They should have Tua back. Jalen Waddle is a little banged up. Tyreek Hill's healthy. Steelers just beat Tampa last week, but then they got blown out by like 35 points the week before. Kenny Pickett, that offensive line, they're still really struggling. I was tempted to take them plus the points, but especially with Miami and kind of in turmoil and coming off 3 straight losses, I think. But they're getting Tua back. I feel like they're at home. They should be ready to kind of show up against a not very good Steelers team. So I'm just going to avoid it. If I had to pick, I'd probably take the Steelers, but they're just so hard to pick right now. Anyway, next game, Bears at Patriots. I'm going to take the Patriots -8 and not going to think too hard about it. The Patriots just smoked the Browns. They just smoked the Lions. That defense is playing really well. The Bears' offense is terrible. Could be another shutout. So I think the Bears are not going to score any points. And the Patriots, they're getting Mac Jones back. We'll see if that's better or worse than Bailey Zapp. But I think the Bears are just trash. And I'll take the Patriots playing hot, especially on defense. I'll take them -8. So that kind of finishes out the week. Follow me, fade me. Good luck.